Okay, so this is a little reading podcast of some pieces that I wrote. All of these are very powerful pieces dealing with um, indigenous invisibility and genocide. And I just thought it'd be appropriate to make a compilation of me reading these pieces out loud. So this first one is called An Open Letter to the Colonial Mind. You, what have you done? You have taken our children, murdered our women, stripped us of our ways. We miss the days before you came, and now we beg you, please tell us the answer. What have you done? Your civilization crushing our cities, forests, and prayers. Your mad dog killing, infuriating us. With colonialism planted in your frantic mind, you've taken the time to come to our Turtle Island where we began, or as you call it, America, and to divide and conquer to make it yours. You, what have you done? We offered you the choice to sing our songs, but instead you turned away our open hands and fired on us to eradicate the people and destroy it all, wiping away all evidence of our life on Earth. Or so you thought. But we are still here, and we are fighting, longing, being, and believing. Our existence will not be in denial, but in resilience. We are here, and you are here, and that is a problem we solve and live in every day. You, what have you done? My family was wide, plentiful, and true, but now it's thin, lacking water and land because of you. You, what have you done, and what will you do now? Sorry for the genocide. We realize what we've done. 500 years, is that what it's been? It seems so long, all those years of denial and sin. We realize now that was not so good, so we must say now, sorry for the genocide. We realize what we should. Forever, decades, and centuries, we have abused your people, murdered them, harassed them, in acts of pure evil. But we're sorry for the genocide. We realize what we've done. You haven't gotten this apology before, so we know after this one you'll probably want more, so we will open the door, but after we change the world like the Nazis tried. Now the Germans apologize for unleashing that gargantuan blood tide. So we are doing that now, right here on the spot. Apologizing to our foes, our victims, your lot. Now you are no longer victims because we regret what we did, and we hope you understand. That with all of our hearts, we didn't want to take your land. We only needed it for money. You get that, yes? And now some of you have money, we guess. So you must understand why we had to tell you to go. It's nothing personal, only business, you know. After all, we are sorry for the genocide. We realize what we've done. Apology accepted. Sorry, land. I apologize for the destruction. I apologize for the hate. I apologize for the ignorance, using you as bait. I apologize for the European colonizer's heart, ripping this land apart. I apologize for the destructive guy that comes through and gouges your bloody eyes. I apologize for the wrath of the titan on your sleeve, the tree hugger discrimination being the norm, the plan, the wheel. I apologize for the 500 years. I'm sad that Ronald Reagan did what he did all those years. I'm sad that Trump took us out of the climate accord, just glad that Biden put us back in. I'm sad when I see native song and dance lie in danger, some slowly fading away as the Western world bats the remaining impure peeps away. I apologize, I never meant for any of this to happen. I'm sorry that now we are left to clean up, we young'uns. I'm sorry that some people don't believe in climate change. I'm sorry that I say sorry like a Canadian. I'm sorry that some people are just too stupid to care. I'm sorry that some people are too impure to make a wish upon a star that this will all go away. I'm sorry for the genocide. We realize what they've done. I apologize that I forgot where bongos come from. Sorry, Cuba. I'm sorry that the sun still beats my green eyes. I'm sorry that I haven't been to Germany for a while and that my uncle doesn't think Mayans are real. I'm sorry that people still don't know our history when we ask them, and that most people will not truly understand the message behind Indian eyes. I'm sorry that the grass is greener on the existential crisis side of the lawn than on the side of peace. I'm sorry that John Trudell died. I'm sorry for fig bar mixes and teeth-cutting tarantula tentacles. I'm sorry that we can't have fun. I'm sorry, not sorry, that you feel attacked. I apologize for the warmth. I'm trying hard not to blink. I'm sorry that indigeneity is so gone that even feathers are unseen. I apologize for the stigma associated with death. Why is the grass so uneven? I apologize for the false sours. I apologize for the hair in a bag and the teeth on the ground, and of course for the terrifying screams. I'm sorry. Sorry land. Sorry water. Sorry air. Sorry fire. Sorry Bob. Sorry life. Sorry dissidents. Sorry tree. Die Namen des Völkermords, the names of genocide. You were sitting next to the park you went to as a child, now a memorial. When did this happen? You haven't been able to bring yourself here since the end of the war, so you don't know. Back when you were a third grader at the Heinrich Siller Grundschule in Berlin, from 1901 to 1902, this beautiful spot was just a park, and then later it became much more. It became the Sachsenhausen concentration camp. You sit on the old brown bench overlooking the wide expanse of grassy lawn on the outskirts of the German capital. Staring down at the small red notebook in your lap, you open up a new page, where you have already written down the date, July 12th, 1979, 43 years after the camp opened. It is 43 years after you became one of them, one of the Nazis. Now you have changed. Small green bushes surround the lawn, and a dirt path runs alongside it. Signs with white borders read friendly reminders like, Radfahrer bitte absteigen, bikers please dismount bikes, or Spielplatz für Kinder unter 12 Jahren. Playing area for kids under 12 years of age. 40 years ago, the signs said other things like Juden oder Hunde raus, Jews or dogs out. You sigh, remembering those times of killing right here in this park, on this lawn, under these well-tended beech trees. You sit there, your hands folded between your legs, looking out at the beautiful green grass with the small building on the other side, the museum with the old grounds of the camp spread out behind it. Two blonde kids play in the park, and you are frightened as you watch them. You remember back when kids that looked like them were the only kids allowed in the park, and any other kids were a nuisance. And then you remember later times when rumors spread about the camp, rumors about what happened here. People muttered about how those who went into the camp never came back out. They went into what they were told was a shower, but it was really a gas chamber in a killing plant. You narrow your eyes thinking about this. You were responsible for this killing plant. You and your friends, who should have really been nothing more than your enemies, had been more than willing to herd hundreds upon hundreds of shivering, scared human beings into the depths of the cold concrete chamber which would be their doom. You had told them that they would take showers, when in reality they would be suffocated by poison. You start to cry. You reach up to touch your aged face, and you feel the silent tears streaming down your cheeks. Back in those days, you never felt remorse. Back in those days, you would have been more than happy to round up all those animals and kill them on the spot right then and there. You were always angry that it took so long. And now, half a century later, you realize that it didn't take long at all. You reach into your pocket and pull out your old yellowed ID card hidden all these years. You stare at the thick block letters printed on the front. Hans Rudolf Eichenberg, Hauptkommandant der Lagerschutzarmee Sachsenhausen. You read it again. Eichenberg. That is your real last name. The last name you carried as a Nazi, a name you have hidden since the end of the war. You shiver as the thought and history of this place sinks into your soul. You remember your Uncle Gerald at the dinner table, shouting about the decline of Germany in the world's eyes after World War I. You felt Gerald's hatred, and you felt the pride of being German. You had no doubt that you made the right decision when you joined the Nazis. You remember those times, but you realize now that you were all responsible for the murder of these hundreds of people buried in the ground beneath your feet, and many more. Your eye catches the single brown building again, the Sachsenhausen Memorial, and you think about all the family stories commemorated in those simple stone walls. You get up from your bench, walk across the lawn, and into the museum. The door is glass, with wooden handles and a sign that has the hours of operation written on it. You grunt in disgust. How could they dismiss this place and all its history and people killed here by giving people only a certain limited time to visit it? Regardless, you go in. Before you step through, you must enter through a thick iron gate with the words Arbeit macht frei, work makes freedom, in wrought iron letters above the steel grate. A thick lump forms in your throat. You had helped build this. You and your Nazi officers had proudly constructed this gate in the busy weeks of June 1936, right before the camp opened its doors and accepted its first transport on August 18, 1936. Now, when you stand directly in front of it, it makes you want to vomit. However, as you hesitatingly reach out your hand and push open the rusty gate, you also feel a sense of determination. You must go inside to see what has been done in memorial. So you do. Inside, the walls are close together with small black and white pictures of each person that died, brief words about how long they lived and what their profession was. You squint through your glasses and the remnants of tears and try to read some of the names listed, along with their lifespan and how they died. Alfred Birnbaum, conductor, 1860 to 1942, death by gas. Tabernek Neumann, author, 1891 to 1938, death by gas. Primo Simkovsky, singer, 1900 to 1943, death by gas. Enid Farbizon, actress, 1885 to 1940, death by gas. The list goes on and on and on. You think about what kind of life these people could have had if you and your soldiers hadn't been so cruel and so selfish in trying to create your own perfect world of the Übermensch, or the superior man of pure blood. These people are all dead now, reduced to only dirt and roots deep down in the earth, where nobody will ever find them. But no, wait. You found them. And they are all gone now, and you are here, alone. Alone with their ghosts and with the names. You step into the next room, where another series of photos with plaques beneath them reveal information about who the people were. As you turn the corner, the first photo catches your eye. It is a photograph of you when you were about 50, with information about your life story. You read the plaque the museum has written about you. You smile grotesquely at the direct copy of your ID card at the top. You sigh. You wonder how many Nazi soldiers come back to these museums and see pictures of themselves staring back at them. You squint down and begin to read the words. Hans Rudolf Eichenberg, Hauptkommandant der Lagerschutzarmee Sachsenhausen. Geboren am 2. Mai 1892 in Berlin. The information after that makes tears stream down your face again. It is a carefully detailed depiction of where you were born, who your parents were, and what your career was before the war. It talks about how your father was Helmut Winkel Eichenberg, the famous World War I soldier, who died during a cannon attack during the Battle of Verdun in 1916, when you were barely a young man attending Berlin University. The plaque also talks about how your mother was the great German writer Marie Schubert Münster, who wrote tragic stories about your father's experience in what was then known as the War to End All Wars, a war that took millions of lives. The sign carefully details how, at age 64, she was diagnosed with tuberculosis in 1927, more than a decade after your father was killed in the war. By that time, you had already married a young German housemaid named Renate Eichenberg, née Voltrud, in 1922, already out of the university for 5 years. You had met her while you both attended Berlin University together. You remember how beautiful she was as you leaned forward towards the photo of your face staring back at you, your hands beginning to sweat. The plaque describes how 5 years after you were married, in May 1927, only 3 months after your mother had passed away, your wife Renate gave birth to a young baby boy. Your mind wanders as you remember, grief seeping into your body, thinking about how everybody has gone, including your precious son. You named him Klaus Helmut Eichenberg. Klaus after your grandfather, and Helmut after your father. Klaus grew up to take on your grandfather's health clinic begun in 1888, the one you had inherited and run all the way up until mid-1936, when you left to become a Nazi. That is where the plaque ends. Now, your memory takes over as you remember more. During the war, Uncle Gerald took over and taught Klaus everything he needed to know. When Gerald died at the war's end, Klaus stepped in and ran the clinic until his death 2 years ago of heart failure. They are all gone, only you remain living in hiding. You pull yourself together. You grasp your cane and take a step back from the photograph on the wall. You are amazed at the details of what is written on this plaque. It's an impressively precise and correct life story of what you have been through. As you read, the images and memories of those people you loved come back to you. Sighing, you move through the room with the faces of the soldiers, looking at one after another. You recognize many, and you see that underneath a number of the pictures, the words Tod durch Selbstmord, death by suicide, are written. Startled, your hands slip on the wet grip of the cane. When you move out the door past your own picture again, you notice that there is no manner of death written, nor a date. You return to the first room, where you see the list of names and occupations, along with the pictures, of victims of the Sachsenhausen gas chamber, not as lengthy as your own. You glance over the victims' names and faces, sighing, pondering your life, when suddenly a name leaps out at you as though it were a living person or one of the photos coming to life. Anne Berghofen. Anne Berghofen. You repeat it over and over again in your head. The realization comes to you and hits you hard. No, you whisper under your breath. Anne. Anne Berghofen was your best friend in elementary school. You remember the day you met her, the warm day in mid-July. She was a sweet little girl of only 8 years, with brown braids coming down to her shoulders, black eyes, and pale cheeks. She had a look then considered beautiful, but which would later be considered a crime. Her blood was then considered pure because of her beauty, but in only 20 years it would become the most dirty and filthy blood on the planet. You had loved her. You had been her friend. In fact, you had been the one to start the friendship because of those days where you would sit with her and talk when no one else would. She would sigh and she touched your heart, the way she would always sit with her eyes downcast on the grassy hill outside of the school. Back in 1900, when the idea of anti-Semitic laws were not even thought of yet, you and she had trusted each other. She was like a sister to you, and you were like a brother to her. You had kept in contact all the way until you went to Berlin University in 1912, and she went off to study literature at the University of Munich, and then later became an author. She wrote tender children's books that were loved by everyone, and she became famous, and you were proud of her. But then everything changed. In 1933, anti-Jewish laws swept over Germany, and then later the Nazi-occupied countries of Europe. Her books disappeared, and rumor surfaced that she was Jewish. You had dismissed this thought then, thinking that you couldn't possibly have loved a Jew. Besides, in the 21 years since you had last seen her, you had fully fallen into your own relationship with Renate and had given birth to Klaus, and your support for the extermination of what the Nazis called dissident blood from the world was very much in place. After standing in the crowd at the Berlin Sportpalast, feeling the excitement and hearing the screams of all the people around you, and seeing the promising smile of Chancellor Hitler on a cold winter day, you took on the job of a Nazi officer in Sachsenhausen in 1936. 4 years later, Anne Berghofen arrived from her home in Munich, deported with her husband Kurt and son Joachim, who was born in early 1933, right when the Nazis took complete control. All three of them were sent to Sachsenhausen concentration camp in 1940 and were forced directly to the gas chambers. Perhaps you and your officer friends had even looked them directly in the eye when you forced them to strip to go into what they thought was a warm shower. At the time, though, you could not have known it was them. And maybe you would not have cared. Maybe you would have seen only another Jewish family holding hands, with the mother holding her son, trying to protect him, trying to keep him warm. All this happened on the ice-cold morning of December 12th, 1940. They died at 11:04 a.m. of gas. Their bodies were then burned, just like the other 6.5 million that died in the Holocaust, and you at the time had felt no remorse. But today you start to cry. You remember your voice at 8.5, calling out her name on the lawn where you used to play. Anne, komm her zum Spielen. You look around the room and your eyes fall on the picture of Anne one last time. You look at her, and as you do, her eyes stare directly into your soul, as if she had insight into your heart, as if she was accusing you of being guilty for her life and her death, wanting you to pay. You look straight at her, and she stares back at you, her black eyes dark and deep as the night. Her penetrating stare makes you realize millions died because of your hate. A plague spread across Europe, and that day, when you killed Anna and her family, you hadn't even recognized her. You sigh, your forehead sweaty, grief twisting your face, your knees shaky while you are still supported by the old wooden cane. You reach into the picture with your eyes, trying to bring her to life, but then you force your eyes away and down onto the floor of cold, polished stone, with small cracks spreading out beneath your feet, which make certain spots of the floor uneven and almost slippery. Breathing heavily, you hobble out of the memorial and towards the rusty black iron gate. Arbeit macht frei stares you in the face once again, this time from the other side. Seeing the words backwards is almost more frightening, like you were looking at a version of your soul from the back side, a version which might have escaped your thoughts, but will never escape your body. By now, it is already past 6 in the evening, and the warm midsummer breeze starts to waft its way over the tall grasses on the edge of the lawn as they slowly rock back and forth, carefree and quiet like a small child. Ahead on the long horizon is the dark green line of shrubs trembling with the soft whisper of the wind, as if waving goodbye to you. When you look to the left, you see the figures of the gigantic bronze memorial statue of 2 prisoners with the Nazi soldier directly behind, dark gray. The names of all the countries the prisoners were from are engraved on the podium below the statues themselves. You let out a sharp breath and look away. Behind the line of buses, all the way on the Bundesstraße, you hear the light mix of cars racing back and forth to and from Berlin. The sound is so far away that it sounds like it is intermixed with the wind. But there is another sound too, a soft extended screech that is just barely audible over top of the sound of cars. You squint your eyes while you hobble across the lawn and past the park entrance to the tracks on the other side of the gently moving tall grass at the lawn's border. Looking down the steel rails toward Berlin, you can see the train approaching, its wheels spinning with the intensity and determination of getting to its destination, as though it is in the race of its life. Leaning on your cane for support, you pause a moment. Then you let your cane go and watch it fall away and bounce until it rests in the dirt at the edge of the tracks. Taking a deep breath, you push yourself onto the steel rails as the screech of the train grows louder. You see Anna's eyes as you call out her name. Anne.